What does this mean?
The front door, you need 6 musclemen to open it up.
It's not El Dorado. It's Fort Knox. There are 6 musclemen who open the door, but of course they won't budge unless you can answer 3 riddles.
Do you see I'm a little edgy?
Yeah.
I spend like pretty much 90% of my waking hours tweeting hatred towards this administration.
When Seth Meyers and Rosie O'Donnell team up to roast Trump, chaos ensues. Seth Meyers and Rosie O'Donnell just unleashed a brutal tag team roast on the Trump circus, and the fallout is pure comedy gold. Melania, she's perfected her silent mannequin act, barely blinking through the storm. Meanwhile, Donald, spiraling like a toddler, denied a happy meal tantrums included from Meyers' razor-sharp late-night singers to Rosie's no-holds-barred truth bombs. This isn't your average celebrity feud. It's full-blown comedy warfare. Punchlines are landing, egos are crumbling, and the Trumps are descending into chaos faster than you can say fake news. Trust us, you've never seen a first lady blink this hard or a president this rattled.
Yeah, well, now I want to ask you about this because that is a two-way street. Because Donald Trump has been mad at you for a very long time.
Over a decade.
Over a decade.
Trump's latest meltdown, Seth Meyers, Rosie O'Donnell, just turned it into comedy fuel. At this point, Donald Trump's tantrums are like a bad sitcom that somehow got renewed for another season, except this time the comedy gods sent in the ultimate tag team, Seth Meyers and Rosie O'Donnell, armed with more cutting wit than any intelligence briefing Trump ever skimmed or ignored. And let's be real, when these two unload, the only safe space left for Trump is hiding under one of Melania's many untouched Christmas trees. Meyers hits with precision late-night punches, while Rosie drops truth bombs like she's been stockpiling them since The Apprentice days. Meanwhile, Melania's mastering her I see nothing, I hear nothing mannequin routine, and Donnie's rage-tweeting into the void like a Wi-Fi-deprived toddler. This isn't just a roast, it's a full-scale comedy demolition. And honestly, we're here for every glorious second of it.
And did it sort of start? It started from The View, yeah?
The View.
Yeah. And it's been really, we've sort of made the joke on the show that he's flip-flopped on everything except you.
It's actually very true.
Yeah.
You know, there was a Tara O'Connor, I believe her name was, a young Irish lass who was Junior Miss Trump Atlantic City pageant sexist winner. And she was downtown, 19-year-old girl, drinking and kissing a girl. And it was on the cover of the Post. So he held a press conference right before The View went on live. And he said, just want you to know, I've forgiven her. And this young woman, I'm like, what is he?
If you thought Donald Trump's tantrums couldn't get more predictable, think again. At this point, his outbursts are like a bad reality show that refuses to get canceled, except now the ratings just skyrocketed thanks to Seth Meyers and Rosie O'Donnell turning his fragile ego into their personal punchline. Meyers with his signature deadpan precision, and Rosie swinging truth bombs like she's been waiting decades for this moment, teamed up to deliver a roast so brutal Trump's only defense was well more incoherent rage-tweeting. Meanwhile, Melania's in the background perfecting her I'd rather be anywhere else expression, likely wondering why she didn't negotiate this into the prenup. The trigger this time, just some harmless late-night jokes and a few delightfully savage jabs, but for a man so allergic to facts he might break out in hives if someone hands him a book. It was enough to send him spiraling, puffed up like a Cheeto in a microwave. He's now stomping through Mar-a-Lago, howling about unfair jokes louder than his actual inauguration crowd ever cheered. Want more of this glorious chaos? Hit subscribe, and while you're at it, check out our limited edition Trump merch link in bio, because nothing triggers him harder than people profiting off his meltdowns.
Who is he? He's the moral arbiter of 20-year-old behavior now, right? So then I said, you know, some facts that I just went on Wiki that were easily accessible since this campaign began, that he is bankrupt 4 times, that he got all his money from his father, and that he notoriously cheats private contractors out of their money.
Yes, and that is all pretty well documented. Yeah.
Full fact.
And so you said this on The View.
And he went bat crazy.
Yeah. And stayed that way.
Stayed that way?
Yeah.
Seth Meyers, the Ivy League assassin, strikes again, and Trump can't handle it with the precision of a surgeon. and the grin of a man who knows exactly how deep his cuts land. Seth Meyers took to his late night stage and began dissecting Donald Trump like a rotting orange onion. Each layer peeled back revealed the same pungent cocktail of overinflated ego, undercooked policies, and a shocking lack of self-awareness. And as always, Trump's response was a masterclass in fragile masculinity, a midnight rage-a-tweet storm typed in all caps from the depths of Mar-a-Lago, surrounded by the ghosts of uneaten Big Macs. Because nothing says stable genius like screaming into the Twitter void while the rest of the world laughs at you. Meyers didn't just deliver jokes, she conducted a public autopsy of Trump's crumbling facade. And the best part, the more Trump squirms, the harder we laugh. Game on.
Musk doesn't have Trump's ability to always pretend that everything's going great. If Trump were in charge of Musk's company, he'd be saying, we're selling more Teslas than ever before. SpaceX just landed on Neptune. Now we're going straight to the sun. We're going to blow up the sun. No more solar panels. No more green new scam because the sun will be gone. No more woke. No more woke. You won't be woke because the sun will never be out. You'll always be asleep. We got rid of the sun. I remember the man in the moon came up to me, big moon, strong moon. Tears pouring down from his lunar craters into a sea of tranquility. And he said to me, sir, Mamaga. And I said, what does Mamaga mean? He said, make the moon great again.
But the real fireworks started when Rosie O'Donnell entered the chat. Let's be clear, Rosie O'Donnell doesn't just throw shade, she engineers an entire meteorological disaster. She builds the thunderclouds, hand installs the lightning rods, and then sits back as the whole thing detonates on cue. And when her target is Donald Trump, art meets arson. Their feud is a relic of a bygone era, older than some of Trump's children's failed business ventures, yet somehow it's never lost its spark. Back in the day, Trump mistook Rosie's insults for a leadership challenge. Now she's lobbing verbal Molotovs at whatever scraps of his dignity still smolder. This time, Rosie didn't just take aim at Trump's latest tantrum. No, she broadened the scope to the entire traveling circus that is the Trump household. And let's talk about Melania for a second, the woman who spent 4 years blinking HELPME in Morse code through her eyelashes. While Donald was busy spewing word salad into microphones, Melania oscillated between stoic silence and confused grimace, likely calculating whether Slovenia would accept her back as a repatriated national treasure. Spoiler, they've already erected a do not return sign at the border. Rosie's punchlines didn't just land, they unzipped the Trump family like a cheap suit, leaving nothing but frayed egos and the faint scent of expired bronzer, and honestly, we're all richer for it.
You know, it's very interesting. I expect nothing but the lowest bar for Donald Trump. And, you know, every single day, he just grants my perception of him as correct by his actions, by his words, by his horrible Truth Social that is failing. And, you know, he is the kind of person that is a grifter. And
Trump's meltdown over Seth Meyers' jokes. Melania's already checked out when Trump erupted over Seth Meyers' latest monologue. Melania's reaction was peak Melania, a masterclass in detached indifference, her expression frozen in a look that screams, I've regretted every life choice. Since 2005, witnesses say she might have offered a microscopic eye roll. Others insist she simply stared into the void, mentally replaying those 3 agonizing hours she once spent pretending to care about cyberbullying while married to its grand architect. And Trump's big counterpunch, a classic Trumpian tantrum complete with an unhinged truth detour where he declared Seth Meyers irrelevant because in Trump's world, if you can't handle the heat, just deny the oven exists. A strategy he also applies to science, climate change, and the entire U.S. Constitution. But Seth, he didn't even need words, just that trademark smug smirk, the one that says I roast you for fun, and you keep handing me matches. And honestly, he's not wrong at this point. Mocking Trump isn't even satirates, just stating the obvious, like reporting the weather stormy, more like whiny, with a 100 chance of self-found bonus. If you enjoy watching Trump implode over jokes, smash that subscribe button because this circus isn't closing anytime soon.
For the weekend, President Trump talked about shutting down diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in the federal government. Yeah, you got to earn those jobs, said his former senior advisor. At the same rally, President Trump also said that people used to be able to call women beautiful and young, but added it could now, quote, end your political career. What? I can only think of a couple political careers that actually ended, and they were ended by the guy who does that. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump on Friday traveled to California and toured wildfire damage by helicopter. Said Trump afterwards, "It's been years since we laughed together like that."
Rosie O'Donnell didn't just roast Trump. She served him on a silver platter of comeuppance. While Seth Meyers was busy filleting Trump with Ivy League precision, Rosie O'Donnell came in like a wrecking ball wrapped in a stand-up special. This wasn't just a roast, it was a three-course meal of poetic justice, slow-cooked over the open flames of Trump's own fragile ego. She didn't hold back, called out his staggering incompetence, highlighted his gold medal hypocrisy, exposed his uncanny ability to turn national tragedies into Trump-centric pity parties. The internet erupted in cheers. It was like watching someone dropkick a fascist balloon animal at a children's birthday party. The schadenfreude was palpable. Here's the delicious irony. Trump lives for this. He pretends to be above it, but the man's addicted to the attention almost as much as he's addicted to Diet Coke, failed real estate ventures. The sound of his own voice. At 3 a.m., Seth and Rosie didn't just hurl insults, they popped his carefully constructed bubble of delusion like a kid popping bubble wrap, and true to form, Trump responded exactly how you'd expect a man with the emotional maturity of a soggy crouton to respond. A blizzard of ALLCAPS, third-person self-phrase grammatical horrors that would make a fourth-grade teacher weep. The best part, every meltdown just proves their point, turning their jokes into prophecy and his rage into our entertainment. Keep screaming into the void. Dawn, we've got popcorn. Want more of this beautiful dumpster fire? Hit subscribe. The circus isn't leaving town anytime soon.
When he is upset and humiliated and embarrassed, he has no control and he goes apeshit. Can I say that? And, he is the kind of person that is a grifter. And he is an evangelical preacher to people who believe that Celebrity Apprentice.
Melania, America's most reluctant first lady, plays hostage again. While Trump stomps around like a spoiled toddler, denied his favorite toy this week's tantrum, still bitter about Greenland, Melania continues her reign as America's most disinterested hostage. If she blinked twice at one of his outbursts, it would break the internet, because at this point her entire public persona screams I'm just serving time in a gilded prison. Her stance on this verbal carnage, the same as always, perched in painfully high heels, standing on a mountain of apathy, so towering you'd think she was auditioning for First Lady of Narnia. The woman hasn't genuinely laughed since 2007, and even then it was probably just indigestion from swallowing her pride. Meanwhile, as Trump's meltdowns trended again, the world watched late-night comedians and outspoken women do what they do best, exposing the absurdity of a man who once bragged about identifying a camel on a dementia test. Seth Meyers, armed with smirking sarcasm and surgical precision, didn't just mock Trump, he exposed him. Every joke proved that Trump's idea of strength is just yelling over facts until his face matches his spray tan. And Rosie, she didn't even need to write new material. She just held up a mirror and let Trump wrestle with his own reflection. Spoiler, he lost again. The lesson here, you can't humiliate a man with no shame, but you can make the whole world laugh at him while he tries to pretend he's winning. Want more of this beautiful disaster? Subscribe, because Trump's ego isn't running out of fuel anytime soon.
Design. In a new interview, President Trump said that he believes the biggest threat to the country are nuclear weapons, and added that they are, quote, big monsters that can blow your heads off for miles and miles and miles. And in that case, I'm glad the guy in charge of them describes him like he's a sugared-up 4-year-old.
Trump's latest tantrum blamed the liberal comedy conspiracy. Of course, in Trump's alternate reality, this entire roast session wasn't just well-earned comeuppance, was all part of the vast liberal comedy conspiracy. You know, the one phase 1, someone tells a joke; phase 2, Trump's ego short circuits; phase 3, he rage posts on his knockoff Twitter platform, where the only active users are his accountant Rudy Giuliani's hair dye supplier and 17 Russian bots. Meanwhile, Fox News tried spinning the whole thing as an attack on American values, because apparently sarcasm is now a felony in Trumpland. They even trotted out their favorite buzzword, calling Seth and Rosie Hollywoodalites. The irony, this from the network that treats a failed casino mogul with a reality TV catchphrase like he's the second coming of Lincoln thinks truth, is whatever Trump last mumbled between Big Mac bites somehow still believes fake news means anything that makes dear leader look bad. The best part, they're not even pretending anymore. The more Trump melts down over jokes, the more he proves the punchlines write themselves. And as long as he keeps handing out material, comedians will keep cashing the checks. Thanks for the content, Dawn. Want to keep the laughs coming? Subscribe because this train wreck has no brakes.
President Trump spoke last week about NASA astronaut Sunny Williams, who is stuck on the International Space Station, and called her, quote, the woman with the wild hair. Okay, let's not throw stones. This also looks like it was taken in zero gravity. When asked by reporters yesterday aboard Air Force One about the possibility of a recession, President Trump said that his tariffs will make the U.S., quote, so rich you're not going to know where to spend all that money, unless, you're feeling like an omelet.
Trump's meltdown reaches peak irony. Now he's threatening to sue comedians. As Trump spiraled into another self-inflicted crisis, his aides reportedly scrambled to contain the damage, likely by showing him old Apprentice clips or reminding him that, yes, he still has supporters who believe windmills cause cancer, but no amount of nostalgia or conspiracy theories could stop the supernova collapse of Trump's ego crashing into reality. Even Melania's legendary "don't involve me" aura force field of detachment, so strong it could deflect subpoenas, was powerless against the sheer momentum of Trump's tantrum. And now, the pièce de résistance, Trump is threatening legal action. That's right, the man who spent years mocking snowflakes and bragging about his thick skin is now crying defamation because two comedians made fun of him. He wants to sue Seth Meyers and Rosie over jokes, which is like trying to sue gravity after falling down the stairs, demanding a refund from the sun for giving you a sunburn, blaming McDonald's because you ordered 12 Big Macs. And now feels sick. Here's a thought, Dawn. Maybe if you didn't constantly hurl yourself into public humiliation like a clown cannon, you wouldn't keep ending up as the punchline. The funniest part, he's doing this to himself. Every lawsuit threat, every all-caps meltdown, every desperate attempt to silence critics just proves the joke's right and keeps the comedy coming. So go ahead, file those papers. Well, be here, popcorn ready, waiting for the next cell phone. Need more of this beautiful karma? Subscribe. Show's only getting better.